I'm not a writer.
Okay.
If I find my way home, yeah. Wouldn't it be crazy? But you still amaze me.
Guys, welcome to Tanking with Steph and Jay. Sorry I'm not down in the fish room, but I haven't turned on the lights down there yet. Today we're going to talk to you about Substrate, things we have used, what we like and don't like, and why. So I'm going to start with something that most of us have probably used, which is generally marketed to new hobbyists, and that's gravel. I don't normally like gravel just because a lot of what's out there is really garish colored, and I like a more natural look, but that's just my preference. I also think it's not really an optimum choice for new hobbyists just because it can trap detritus and loam and cause an issue with nitrogenous waste buildup if you don't know how to clean it properly, and a lot of people starting out don't really realize that you do need to clean the substrate bed. There are some benefits to having gravel, particularly the use of an under gravel filter, which is not really utilized in the hobby anymore but can be a great tool. Personally, I like to use sand, and in particular pool filter sand. It's nice and bright and beautiful. It's got uniform smooth grains, which are relatively heavy, so even if it gets stirred up, it goes back down to the bottom pretty quick. Unlike play sand, which doesn't have such uniform grains across the board, and a lot of it is more fine and light, which runs the risk of getting into the filter intake and then into the impeller and causing damage if you use a hang on the back or a canister. And also I just don't particularly like the color, at least not the brands that I've bought. I do like to use black diamond blasting sand, which for all intents and purposes really isn't sand, it's coal slag. But it's a little bit more abrasive, so for my tanks where I keep loaches and cories, anything with sensitive barbels, I tend not to use it as much. But with a black background, it's really nice to make the fish stand out, especially with certain colors. It's great for photos. There is actually a little bit of orange in it too if you look at it up close. So there are a lot of other options for substrate besides the typical gravel and sand, especially for planted tanks. There's a lot of very specific substrates like Eco-Complete, things of that nature. You can also use an organic potting soil, laterite, peat moss, any combination of things that you want to use to get minerals available for the plants to use. And I've had great success using those types of things as well. There's also options like crushed coral if you have an African cichlid tank and you need a source of calcium carbonate to keep your KH high so you can keep your pH more stable. That's a great choice to use. For cichlids that sift through the sand, it's nicer to have sand, but if you want to use the crushed coral, I mean, it's whatever you prefer. There's also options like a lot of tetra breeders that I've seen use something like marbles, which will allow for eggs to fall down through them and be protected from the parents, so that's an option. I'm not a huge fan of bare bottom tanks just because there's a tendency for biofilm to develop on the glass, and for me personally, like when I've raised a lot of fry, catfish especially, I've had trouble with that biofilm building up, and when I started using a substrate, I had much better success with them. You can get creative, use whatever out there you want, as long as it doesn't leach anything harmful into the water column that will ultimately hurt your fish or whatever livestock you have. So get creative. Tell us what you got, what you like, why you like it, why you don't. Thanks so much.